Kyogre has historically been one of the best restricted Pokemon in the game, rendering its range-setting friend Pelipper useless in restricted-based formats. However, in the early stages of Regulation G, we have seen Pelipper thriving, while the lovable blue whale seems, as the kids would say, washed. Today, we are going to be looking at why this is the case, starting with Pelipper and what exactly makes this Pokemon for the first time ever better than Kyogre in a restricted format. Now, I think immediately my big thing is it is not a restricted Pokemon. You are not, quote unquote, wasting your restricted slot for your range setter. That means you now have a Pelipper, you have a Pokemon on the field that can set rain for your team to support the rest of your restricteds. Maybe you are putting this beside the Calyrex Ice or beside a Zamazenta for, let's just say, or Zacian, right? Just supporting those steel types. And that is what Kyogre used to be very good at, right? Kyogre was amazing at doing damage itself. It also gave rain, which also supported, like we saw in 2022, beside that Zacian, making Zacian function that much better because it was no longer scared of the fire types. Kyogre would remove the fire types, Kyogre would remove the ground types, right? It was a very good type synergy together, and Zacian still likes having those pieces. Zamazenta definitely likes having those pieces, but you can't put the two restricteds together since right now in Regulation G we only have one. So people are basically saying if I want a Drizzle setter, I can support my bigger restricteds with not necessarily a restricted, and I'm still going to have a restricted, right? And I think that's the big thing to be said here, right? Because it's not a restricted, you don't feel the need to bring Pelipper into 90% of your matches, right? You're okay leaving it on the bench if this just isn't the match for Pelipper, right? It just gives you a lot more leeway with when you're bringing the Drizzle in, right? And there is one thing you don't get, and you don't get Water Spout Go Burr, right? You don't get that with Pelipper, but you do get an incredible support piece beside your restricted Pokemon, which gets access to Wide Guard. And if you guys have been around on the channel for the beginning of Regulation D, I pretty much mention Wide Guard anytime I can mention Wide Guard. This is a high power format. This is a restricted format. There are the likes of Astral Barrage, Glacial Lance, Precipice Blades, Water Spout, Terrapagos' Terra Starstorm. There are numerous attacks that are just spread attacks, and having access to Wide Guard, making your opponent maybe thinking twice about clicking that spread move button, maybe just catching them clicking the spread move button, clicking Wide Guard, right? You can turn the game immediately, and having that support on a Pelipper is really, really strong here, right? You also get access to some speed control. Granted, I don't think it's used as much right now, but Pelipper with Tailwind is still very, very strong. And with Weather Mind games, you get access to Weather Ball. And you also get access to Hurricane. So I want to talk about these really, really quickly. Of course, the main thing here being Hurricane. Kyogre loses to those grass types that are in the format, right? Rillaboom is one of the most common Pokemon in the format right now, and Hurricane actually does a good chunk of damage back to it. If they opt to run non-AV Rillaboom, then Hurricane actually probably should be able to one-shot it unless Pelipper actually does suck that bad. But regardless, you're doing big damage to Rillaboom. You're not dying immediately to those Grassy Glides, to those Wood Hammers. You also have the likes of probably running Sash if you so choose, if you really didn't want to die that quickly, right? But Pelipper feels really, really good, and it's all because you're not wasting a slot of your restricted to run a Drizzle Pokemon, right? You're now supporting the other main restricted. You have crazy amounts of support for that with not only Drizzle, but you also get Speed Control, you get Weather Ball to play any sort of Weather Wars, which is really, really fun as well. And of course, like I said, you get Wide Guard. And one of the other main reasons is Pelipper right now is currently subscribed to my channel. You too can be subscribed to my channel. Just click the little bell icon down below. But serious notes aside, let's take a quick look at some of the Pelipper teams that are actually floating around right now. Okay, so this is Kojay's Himi Turner tournament winning team from actually just last night at the time I'm recording this video, which is absolutely wild. That was an 170 player tour, and Pelipper decided to take that tour all the way to the top, right? And once again, you are seeing it here beside this Calyrex Ice. That is the combination I was trying to get at earlier. Once again, guys, I'm just going to flash these really, really quickly. I don't want to do a full breakdown, but just kind of throwing some ideas on the screen for you guys, right? You have Wide Guard, you have Hurricane, and Weather Ball. Like I said, opting to not have that speed control. Life Orb is very, very wild. I wonder how many different kills that gets with Hurricane and with Weather Ball. I feel like Life Orb Hurricane probably picks up some of the non-bulky Rillabooms, probably one-shots the Amoonguses as well. I think that's actually a very cool cook on this Pelipper. This is my first time looking at this team in full, right? Right, so you just get that support. You get to be that support piece beside an absolutely busted restricted, and that's what you're seeing here, right? Then you just round out the team with just good Pokemon. The Ogerpon Grass is pretty cool, but we're here to talk about the Pelipper, and that was really cool to see. We also now have Wiltank's third place team from that tournament. We have Pelipper, Zamazenta, as I did talk about earlier. I believe this team also won a Tommy Tuesday the day before as well, so, or a very similar variant with Pelipper Zamazenta. So there's a lot of Pelipper going around right now, and you can just see it winning tours, right? Just once again supporting Zamazenta. You've got pretty much the same set, only with a Focus Sash instead of a Life Orb this time, right? The Protect, players are opting for Protect over the ability to click Tailwind right now, which I think is very valid. I don't think Tailwind is really amazing at the moment, but you always have the option to click Tailwind, right? But just the ability to click Protect when you need to is really, really nice. Keeping your piece on the field, right? Getting the ability to just click a Hurricane the following turn, a Weather Ball, a Wide Guard to support the rest of your team feels incredible. I really like it besides Zamazenta as well. Once again, Pelipper gets rid of those ground types. Pelipper scares away those fire types. And if you are going to be in front of a fire type, at least you can set the rain up, keep Zamazenta alive a little bit longer, and it feels genuinely pretty strong, right? I think this is a pretty cool concept, very similar to those Kyogre Zacian teams that we saw in 2022. Very similar piece. We got Zamazenta, which is the threat of the team, and you're supporting it really, really well with the Pelipper. So why does Kyogre just suck? Okay, let's like seriously break this down. Okay, we've already talked about how Rillaboom is one of the main points in the format, and yes, you can Terra Grass your Kyogre to not die to the Woodhammer, to not die to those Grassy Glides, right? And that's probably pretty fine for the most part. But Kyogre, like I said, on the opposite end of Pelipper, Kyogre is taking your restricted slot. Now, normally that would be fine, right? You have base 150 special attack, your whole point is to click Water Spout, go Burr, right? It is just checked really, really well by non-restricted Pokemon, right? We've seen Rillaboom. We've talked about Rillaboom already. We haven't even touched upon Raging Bolt, which is something that is definitely on a majority of teams. They like to run Assault Vest. They run around the format right now. You can't really hit it. They hit you back pretty hard as well. You might get an Ice Beam off, but it's still going to take you a few Ice Beams if they are that AV variant to get it off the field, where they can just immediately pressure you immensely right off the bat. Right? And then you're using your restricted to just kind of sit in front. Like, you're using your restricted, you're getting checked by non-restricted. It does not feel good. You also have the likes of Amoonguss is still part of the format, but Amoonguss has always been around. I wouldn't really worry too much about Amoonguss being one of the reasons Kyogre has fallen off. I really do think the biggest point is that single restricted format, where I'm pretty much just committing my only restricted to Kyogre. So you don't get the added benefit of having a Water Spout Go Burr mode and the support on your other restricted. All you get basically is the Water Spout Go Burr mode, which is a lot more difficult to pilot in this metagame right now because there's only that one restricted. You don't get that second advantage. It's not like you can just bring Kyogre for rain and say, okay, if it dies here, I don't really care because I supported the other restricted, right? You don't have that, and that's massive in a single restricted format. I think Kyogre does get a lot better in a double restricted, where you can have the two separate options for Kyogre, right? You can use it as a support piece for your steel restricted, or you can use it as an offensive piece if you needed to in certain points of the game, right? You also have the new Sunsetter in Koraidon. Now, I haven't had too much issues playing against a Koraidon when I've had a Kyogre. However, my teams have been built for Koraidon because I've been aware of it. Now, granted, I do still think Koraidon matches up very, very well because you are now able to set the sun and not take 60% from a Water Spout, right? Back in the day, Groudon was the Sunsetter in these formats. Groudon would switch in to reset the weather. Water Spout would go off anyways. Groudon would take 60, right? And with Groudon taking 60%, it was always going to be spooky for Groudon to switch into that. So you'd pretty much have a really good chance as long as you got Kyogre into rain at some point, right? Force them to switch in. But now we have Koraidon. Koraidon switches into a Water Spout, and Koraidon just starts kind of laughing, right? Koraidon resists that Water Spout. You're doing about 20 to 25 max if you do click Water Spout onto switching in Koraidon, right? And then Koraidon can laugh that damage off and just pressure back. Right now they've got the Sunsetter up. Koraidon tends to be paired beside Rillaboom or beside like Raging Bolt because it is a Sun team, right? Just the pressure coming out into Kyogre is not fun. Terapagos is another interesting reason because they do set Calm Minds up, but that one's a little bit more manageable. I don't think that's really one of the reasons why Kyogre's fallen off, but I did feel like it needed to be mentioned a little bit, right? It just, Kyogre just feels a little underwhelming because you're wasting your restricted slot on the slot. Kyogre is the better Pokemon. If you look strictly at stats, which to no one's surprise, the legendary Pokemon is better than the random Route 4 Pokemon. But there is a niche for Pelipper right now in the fact that it is not a restricted Pokemon. We're going to quickly take a look at a Kyogre team that did pretty well in the tournament. Other than that, most of them have been kind of like scrubbing out though. So last weekend we had a tournament where the winner or the top 3 players got, like, I think it was paid trips to Honolulu, Hawaii for Worlds. So definitely the tournament and the big players showed up. This was a tournament. Actually, Wolf ended up winning. But Yotis here got second. And this is a very cool team. You get to see Kyogre and Archaludon. Now, the only thing I'm really going to talk about here is this is kind of the reverse of what the Pelipper is doing. There's a lot more to this team, but I am going to talk about it since we are discussing what Pelipper does and what Kyogre does. I'm going to talk about this in mindset of comparison to Pelipper. So in this case, Kyogre is supporting Archaludon, right? You're using your restricted to support a non-restricted, and that feels a little subpar to me, right? Whereas the Pelipper is your non-restricted that you don't need to bring all the time, supporting your restricted piece, and that feels a lot better than in this case where Kyogre is supporting the Archaludon, right? Now, granted, don't get me wrong, Mystic Water Kyogre Water Spout Go Burr is still a very strong option, right? Tailwind Water Spout, right? You support Urshifu as well with Surging Strikes. There's a lot of good things going on this team. It's very clearly a good team. It did get second at the tour. There are still good things. There are still good features about Kyogre, right? It just doesn't feel, a lot of the time, it just doesn't feel as good. There's a little bit more to check it in the metagame right now. It just doesn't feel as good. One thing I want to point out is back in the day, everybody always used to try, oh, Kyogre Dialga. That sounds like such a cool core. Let's make it work. And then it would just kind of suck. But now we get Kyogre Dialga at home in Archaludon. I think Kyogre Archaludon is a very cool cook. I think if someone can actually like crack that team, like build out the team properly, you are going to see it succeed. But until that, I think Kyogre, I hate to say it, but it might be one of those 6-3 Pokemon, you know? Go to a regional, get 6-3. A few of them will sneak in because they either got the right matchups or they just played a little bit better than their opponents, right? Maybe you'll see 1 or 2 here in Top Cup, but as of the moment right now, Kyogre does seem a little bit washed. Just to really wrap things up, guys, Pelipper is a very cool non-restricted Pokemon that is a lot less commitment to the team and supports your restricted very, very well if you can build out the team properly, and you no longer are forced to bring it. Whereas Kyogre, it's still a strong Pokemon. It just needs it needs to work a lot harder to get the wins going. And in a format where you only get 1 restricted slot, picking a restricted that inherently needs to work a little bit harder to get those wins than other restricteds just feels a little bit subpar. But that is going to be it for the analysis of why Pelipper is greater than Kyogre in Regulation Z. If you guys are enjoying the content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And of course, I really do appreciate it. But with that, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to get on out of here, and I'll catch you all in a future video.